Hello and welcome to this episode of Pipeline to Profitability. I'm Alan Ferguson. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Service Success Academy. Today I'm joined by Brent Crowley. Now, Brent is the Managing Director at It Just Happens Marketing. So in this episode today, we discuss marketing automation along with adoption challenges. Also, prioritizing marketing alongside all technological advancements. We might cover off a bit of other stuff as well. So I'd love to welcome Brent into today's episode. Okay, so here we have Brent Crowley back at us for the third time. I remember our first podcast was probably 2015, maybe 16, and we had you on a few months back, maybe quite a few months back. And one of the topics that I always enjoy with you, Brent, and thanks for doing this podcast, is the marketing. And so I'm gonna come at you. This is all about how can we give massive value to contractors. So via marketing, and we're very much on the same page there. So welcome to the podcast, Brent. Maybe tell everyone a little bit about you and what you're doing at the moment, then we'll get into it, right?
Thanks, Alan. G'day, everyone. My name's Brent Crowley. Alan and I used to work together, about 10 years ago, actually, as I was his marketing manager there for a little while. And prior to that, I've done a lot of sales type work. Not so much marketing before that. Alan was my intro to marketing, actually. And since then, I went out on my own and got stuck into this marketing automation stuff, which was really in its infancy in 2013. You know, you mentioned the word automation and people didn't know what you're talking about. Now, everyone talks about it. And we started out with the email automation sort of thing. We've gone to the SMSs, we've gone to postcards, we've gone to who knows what, AI. We're starting to get into that now, but it's all for the benefit of the contractor. You know, so you've virtually got a silent salesperson in the background there, or a silent marketer, spreading the word and helping to get potentials over the line, so that when they do get on the phone, you're ready to close them and book them and get out there. So that's pretty well what we do.
So marketing automation, look, for me, a lot of experience. I do remember investing in my team, and I've always had the, I suppose, that method of investing heavily into the people, especially when it comes to marketing, because marketing is everything, right? Everything is marketing. Marketing automation can appear a little bit like confusing for some. And I remember investing, not just you, but also my daughter Taylor, in a product called Infusionsoft, nicknamed Confusionsoft. We might have covered that last time. It does marketing automation beautifully. So one of the questions, whenever I start working with a new contractor, 80% of them go, I need more leads and need more leads. and as soon as I dig in, usually a couple of questions, I dig in and find out you don't need more friggin' leads at all. You just need to be getting more out of the leads you've got. But this is leading into marketing automation. So your average plumber, electrician, HVAC technician, how do they benefit from marketing automation, and why is it that they don't need more leads? Well, that's just my view anyway.
Well, you know, with the don't need more leads, you know, you can always do with fresh stuff, but you know, that should be just a top up what you've got sitting there right in front of you. You know, I'll give you an example. Most of the guys that we talk with, they just want us to come in and do it. They don't really want to get into the nuts and bolts of some CRM, doesn't matter whether it's Infusionsoft or whatever. They just want to know that these things that come and tick along in the background. And you know, just to give you an example, recently we set up an automated SMS marketing campaign, and this guy got about 140, 150 jobs he had a reasonable sized database, but and even at his lowest rate, because he's in the HVAC area, is 240, 250 per job, but he's going to get some other wins out of that are going to turn into way more revenue. So even at that amount, you're talking about 20, 30K, just bang like that. Wow. For a tiny investment. But the point is, that just happened in the background. He didn't have people on the phone chasing his customers or anything like that. They were coming to him. They simply replied yes, and then they ring him up and book it in. It's that simple.
So Brent, define a reasonable size database. What does that actually mean? Because I work with small companies. I don't work with big companies. Now, what's a reasonable size database? So I'm trying to put this into perspective for anyone that's tuning in.
All right. Well, if you're serving the domestic market, for example, if you've got a couple of thousand in there, that's a damn good start. If you've got smaller numbers, it doesn't mean you shouldn't do marketing automation. It just means that you might have to invest a bit of time yourself to make it happen, because you might not be able to afford to get a virtual marketing manager in there to make it happen for you. But the larger the database, the bigger the payoff. It really is. And we've worked with guys that had upwards of 40,000 in their database, 50,000. So, and for them, the payoff is massive. It truly is massive. And you would blow your mind that these guys that are up at that level have these databases there they have done nothing with. That's what it never ceases to amaze me, So it is really, it's like having another team member in there that doesn't take sickies, doesn't take leave, doesn't work, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. It's 24/7, 365, just ticking away for you, and you don't have to worry about it. You just take the bookings.
I like a couple of things. Just picking up a couple of comments from the conversation, Brent. When you said virtual marketing manager, that got my attention. And you're right. A lot of contractors don't like to be doing the work when it comes to, because let's face it, even marketing automation, it might sound you can set it and forget it. That's not quite the case in my experience, because we've been down the road where we've done it ourselves and we've outsourced it. So I love the word virtual, and that's a service that you provide. We also provide a similar service, but I'm all about helping. The way I look at it, I want to give my clients the tools, so that they can actually have someone that does maybe the back end and keeps everything rolling, but actually is able to weigh in, because I find myself that it's really hard to manage something that you're not actually on top of and managing. So the other thing too, Brent, that really got my attention is the number of contractors that I deal with that, and this is a really high percentage. It's like more than 80% of the contractors are not doing anything with their existing data. Yeah. And I think back to, and look, I don't want to get confused with what percentage of customers are coming back to the business via our marketing. And yes, a good automation marketing service can actually keep you in front of your customers, but it's the number of calls that we would get from our deliberate outbound activities, and outbound was the last point. Prior to that, we'd do ringless voicemail or voice broadcasting, SMS, email, and then you touched on postcards. So there's a whole sequence there that a lot of contractors, if they did it, so the contractors, the 80% that I'm referring to, if they actually realize that they could be generating considerable work from that, I then question, why do you need more new clients for when you've probably got enough to keep, if you've got if you've got 3 technicians out in the field, one of them can be kept busy full time just from your efforts.
I would agree, totally agree. Yeah, and it's not just, you know, like you reeled off a whole different bunch of ways to keep in touch with them, and it is having all of those sort of ways working in concert with one another. It's not just an SMS or just an email or just a postcard or just picking up the phone or whatever. It's all of those things working together that is a powerful animal, you know. It really is. And like I said, you don't have to pay them overtime or super or sick leave.
Look, I know we've covered a lot of this in the previous podcast we've done, but this is an area of the reason I find this area of marketing so crucial is because I'm watching what's going on in the US.
Yeah.
And a lot of the bigger companies, the well-run companies, the companies that are actually doing, and look, even a lot of the companies that are getting bought up by private equity and consolidated groups at the moment are not utilizing their existing customers. So when a private equity, I mean, I was doing some training at American Pipelining Supplies headquarters in South Carolina 2 weeks back. There was a company there. There was a company there that was doing training on trenchless that had 5,500 staff. I'm not going to mention the name of the company. I'm going, holy shit, this is for plumbing, electrical, air conditioning. I'm going 5,500 staff, and they're investing in training. So that's a different conversation. But look, the potential there is massive, and the private equity companies, I know for a fact when they buy a company or they merge with a company, they're honing in on exactly what we're talking about. So why wouldn't contractors be getting into this now? That I'm throwing that at you, my friend.
Well, okay. I talked to contractor after contractor after contractor, right? And these are the sort of figures that are getting bandied about at the moment to go and acquire a new customer. It's $200, $250. You know, and that's a lot of money. Right. That's a lot of money. So if you've got 10,000 sitting in your database times $250, there's a pretty straightforward equation to give you the absolute minimum value of that database. And we're not talking about the revenue that database has already generated. So why wouldn't you invest a token amount in automation to maximize what you've got there? You know, you've made a big investment in that database at $250 a pop. So why wouldn't you incrementally spend a tiny amount each year, keeping in front of them, keeping them happy, letting them know you're there? You know, it's just such a waste of money to have sit there. You may as well sit it under a rock. You know, if you had that cash, most people, they'd be whacking it in real estate, or they'd be whacking it in even in a bank at the moment at 5 or 6%, or into shares, or into real estate, or what they're doing. And yet that investment they got in their own company, they're not giving it its what's the word? It's due attention. It's an investment like anything else.
I look at that number you threw at me, 250, and I think for a company that is looking for, let's say, block drains or burst hot water or system or stuff that is considered an emergency. And that one thing I've noticed now with the number of companies I'm working with, not just in the US, but in Australia, they all say the same thing, that the non-urgent work has dropped off a bit, and that's going to happen. But when someone's got a block drain and there's shit coming out of places that it shouldn't be, they're still going to have to get a plumber out.
That's right.
When someone's got, we don't get really harsh winters in Texas, where I live, or Sydney, or even Brisbane, where you are. But someone's got no hot water, or even if you're got a really cold, harsh climate, you're going to get that thing fixed. Air conditioning goes out. So I feel that because of the downturn in the economy, and it's real, it's heading back to 2008, I believe.
Yes, I think you're right.
It's definitely happening. Are we there yet? Probably. We probably just don't realize it. But people still have emergencies that they will need to call a contractor out to fix. And this is why, if you've got 2,000 existing customers or 5,000 or 10,000, I think we had like 70, 80,000 customers that we communicated by. We had their email addresses and we used that database really well. So, I'm all about helping contractors to get the most out of their business via their existing customers and how they communicate.
Totally.
Just makes sense, right, Brent?
Totally. To me, I mean, even just using those figures we banded about a second ago, it's just a no-brainer thing to do, and it's and I keep saying it, but it's just like having a silent salesperson there that you don't have to pay commissions to or anything like that. And then they're just going to sell for you.
And what's some key giveaways? What for a smaller contractor or even a bigger contractor that's gone, yeah, I've heard about this marketing automation and connecting with my existing customers via one of the 5 channels that I've discussed. So what's a giveaway from you, like a tip that you would give anyone that's listening on a way to get more calls from customers they've already serviced? I want some gold nuggets thrown at me, Brent.
Well, it's even if they go out and do this themselves, they can get on an SMS platform and they can start sending SMSs. They can group all those customers together via postcode so that you're building your efficiency for when they respond and say, yeah, hit me up. It's very easy to do, and you can personalize it. It does take a little bit of time to set up, granted, but you can do it, and it's an instant hit. It's like a junkie wanting a whack of heroin up his arm or something like that. It's just bang, like that. If you want to take a bit of a longer term approach, then you can start doing the email stuff. But SMS will get you like a 90-95% open rate. Emails 30 if you're good.
Yeah.
We've had one customer mention postcards before, and this is a longer term thing, but one campaign he invested about, I can't remember, 11K to send out to his 4,500 odd people in his database. Over the next 12 months, it returned to 100K.
Wow.
So why wouldn't you do that? Yeah, I mean those are little bits of
gold nuggets,
they sound simple.
Where's some gold nuggets that anyone that's on this call can take? And sorry, just before I go, I know I didn't quite complete what I was saying about $250 is light, in my view, these days, when you look at the cost of buying a customer, because we are all in the business of buying a customer, whether we do it ourselves by our own labor, and if we put value to our own labor, we'd realize it's way cheaper to use an expert, a virtual marketing manager, but that cost is considerably higher. Where it is, it really depends on the type of company and the type of services.
I would agree with, especially with drainage type work, it would be way higher.
Yeah.
I was just talking in general there. And the higher it is, the more reason you should try and maximize your database. It's, we could go on this forever. And I know you briefly talked about, revenue per customer, per employee and that sort of thing a little while back. And this is just another employee. It's not a living, breathing, physical employee, but it's just another employee. And I think you'll find the return on it's pretty damn good. Or the revenue is pretty damn good.
I appreciate you bringing that up. And it's sort of stuck in my mind. For years I've been part of some of the greatest trade groups on the planet, I believe, are in Facebook And this one came up the other day, and I've seen it a couple of times now. And we touched on this, but I just wanted to explain it a little bit further. And it is a little bit off topic, but I'm good at moving a conversation from one thing to another. It's makes it interesting, right? As long as we come back to the main topic, Brent. But what is your... all companies have productive labor, the direct labor out in the field making the money. Then they've got their unproductive labor. And I'm not saying for a minute that anyone that's in the office answering calls, marketing is unproductive, but it's an overhead, it's a cost.
Yes.
And this one really got my attention when I saw, and with what I'm going to share, there'll be a few listeners that are going, no fucking way, that's just not possible. But let me just explain. So if you've got, we were probably a bit too heavy in the office. Like we had, let's say 50 field technicians, 50 field staff. I know we did get bigger than that at one point, and 25 office staff, a ratio of say 2 to 1.
Yes.
And we were to, and this was what was up on the post, was what's your revenue per non-productive team member? So if you've got 25 or 10, I hate using difficult numbers, but if you've got a $10 million business and you've got say 10 office staff, I want everyone to maybe look at this exercise and just come up with a number. So you're a $10 million company, got 10 office staff. That is a bit light when I look at the average out there. Your revenue per unproductive or office staff is $1 million per person, right?
Yep.
I don't know. I'm thinking back when we were at 10 million, we were probably considerably more than that. So our revenue was definitely less than $1 million per indirect team member, office staff. But so there was a company popped up. It was a company that is using Sira software that has, and this is where I know I'm going to get a few of our podcast listeners going, nah, that can't be right. But this particular company was above $4 million per indirect, unbillable staff, $4 million. So I do know for a fact this is a good sized company. It's better than 15 million. I heard rumors. Actually, no, I didn't hear rumors because I work with this particular company. They either have 3 or 4 office staff for a $15 million business. So if you're to do the math, that's about right.
Yeah, right.
It's
that's
3.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that is a very, very, very profitable company because they have a software product. Did I mention they use Sira software? That actually does removes a lot of the inefficiencies in the business. Has it removed potential overhead and office staff? Yes. Has it put people out of work? Probably not, because the business has grown from 0 to where it is now in less than 5 years. And they've always kept that number low. So that's an interesting one. And I feel that, even though we've gone off topic, Brent, I appreciate you bringing this up. It's just my observations of the industry at the moment. And I'm fascinated with, you mentioned also that you're venturing into AI, and I'd probably like to, go down that rabbit hole as well, how AI is helping companies to better communicate to their existing customers via automation. So you got any thoughts on that, my man?
Well, we're only in our infancy with it, right? And we've made nothing live yet. But we've been doing just things like, when you get a review on Google, 5-star review or whatever, and you want to share that love. So we're sucking those reviews out using AI to write a little post or article or whatever you want to call it about it, based on the suburb that this review came from, and grabbing little snippets out of that review, and then it just goes as a post up on Facebook or on the, on their own blog if they want, but it's a fresh thing every time, fresh bit of content. And it also longer term can have potential SEO benefits because you're putting the suburb in there, the type of work they're doing, and et cetera, et cetera. And the other thing is we're looking at a way to, say someone comes in and they book a job with you today, right? And they're up in Hornsby. And you've got in your database at 10,000, you have maybe 30 other people who happen to live in Hornsby. And the AI in the background is going to go out, find those other 30 people, say, hey, we're up in Hornsby in Jersey Street next week. If you'd like a plumber to drop by, blah, 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 blah. So it's very laser targeted. And it's very efficient because if people are responding to that, you can happen to book jobs around the same time as you guys up in Hornsby in Jersey Street. That sort of stuff is what we're toying around with at the moment. And I'm excited with it.
I love it. Look, there's so many cool things happening in the industry. And look, don't think for a minute, anyone that's been following me for a while, we're not utilizing AI. And I know that, there has been some hot topics on this. Will AI eventually replace CSRs, call takers? Will it eventually replace dispatchers? It will eventually, I think, as the technology evolves. And we're looking at, I've got quite a few of my clients use Sira software. Well, they built the software utilizing AI from the ground up. Yep. So they've been using it in a way that no one else is using it. Now, this is this was hot on my mind because I've been communicating with Billy Stevens, the founder.
Yeah.
And, he's in our private group and he's in other groups, and we've been communicating some of the things that he's doing. And one of the things he shared with me, which I know I've shared this before, and probably I've done several workshops with Billy, got another one coming hopefully within the next few weeks. And the topic there is zero dispatch fees. And I was taught by Joe Cunningham years ago that dispatch potentially is one of the potentially one of the most powerful positions in a company, especially if dispatch is merged into a call by call position. And I'll come back to that. So Billy challenged me with thinking about the number of touch points in a service call. So let's just say, for instance, that we've been running our business the way we've always been running our business, and we have the customer goes online, they see our company or they see our truck, and they either call us from the truck. Some companies just remember the name, Super Drains, Amiga, whatever it is, and then they'll go online and punch in the name, and then they'll click on a paid ad, of course, which costs us X amount because they didn't remember the phone number. So that's something, there's a lesson there for anyone that wants to be ahead of that, is you should do paid ads on your own business name, I believe, so that
I agree.
Way lower cost than Block Drain Hornsby. Use Hornsby as an example.
Totally.
That's a suburb in Sydney, by the way, all my American audience. So there's certain things we can do. So Billy explained that your average service call, by the time the customer calls, the CSR puts a job in the system, confirms with the customer the time, hands it over to dispatch. There's 28 touch points on your average service call. Now, anyone that says to me, Alan, you're wrong, it's actually 29, I could friggin' care less about, but let's just presume it's 28, it's 29 touch points. That particular Sira software has reduced that to 3 touch points because it's got so much technology that's built in. And this is why it's way ahead of its competitors. And I'm not going to mention any names of competitors, but I think any other product out there that dispatches and claims to do what Sira does is that they're just not doing it the same, because their platform was not built on the AI from the start.
Yeah,
so if you've got a company that does most of the heavy lifting, it can do 1 hour appointment times, it does 0 dispatch fees. But that's obviously a management decision. It does so many things that makes that business more efficient, and the proof of that business is only needing 3 people to run it in the office. Okay,
yeah, that's beautiful.
So, but I wanted to venture into, and since you got me started, thanks again, Brent, the call-by-call management process. And I'm going to come back to you. I mean, we've talked about this, and it's probably, we're not going to have time today to delve too much into that. But the fact that we've brought up the dispatcher, we've brought up efficiencies in the business. What's your view? And I don't know if you've got an understanding of what is actually coming to the industry. I don't know of any contractors down under Australia, that is the penal colony, that are actually doing it, but it's getting big in the US. Call-by-call management is the new buzzword. I want to throw that back at you. What's your understanding?
Only what you shared with me recently, and it was in the face of what I had previously been sort of brought up on, as in flat rating, etc., etc., etc. And flat rating is it's a brilliant thing, as we all know. But then when you started talking about this to me the other day, and about the efficiencies that were happening by going down this call-by-call management route, and the margin side of it also, that blew my mind, and it's something that obviously I'm going to have to dig deeper into, because you're right. I haven't heard of anyone talk about this in Australia at all.
It's coming,
and I talk with a lot of guys and I haven't heard it.
We're going to be part of making sure that it happens in Australia. We were introduced, and look, this is a topic I've had. As you know, Joe Cunningham is in Australia at the moment, changing lives, helping contractors to implement call-by-call management. It's a buzzword in the US, and it has been. I've been listening to, I work with companies, big companies too, 400 or 500 million a year, that are using the whole call-by-call virtual ride-along and sales over the phone.
That's what I love. I love that idea.
Talk about companies that are they've got single call-by-call managers, or whatever the name is, doing $14-15 million US per year revenue by using this process. Now, I'm not claiming to be an expert in this area, but the entire process, and we named it, it was labeled differently when Joe Cunningham first started working with us. We're prior to Joe, we were working with Tech Daddy. You remember Charlie?
Yeah.
We've had some fun with Charlie Greer. Not the easiest person to deal with, great guy, and his complexity is what makes him so unique. So try not to ever say anything bad about any trainer. And we had the Kenny Chapmans and we had the Mark Madisons. So we've had some amazing trainers down under. But Joe opened my eyes by introducing call-by-call management to my companies around 2013. And I want to stay on this topic, because I not only want you to understand how powerful this is, I want every single listener to also realize that there is massive revenue opportunity within the business. So yeah, Joe introduced it to us around 2013, 2014. He had actually started doing this type of training, the call-by-call process, when he was first started out with, I think, Carrier air conditioning, and I think he said it was around 1990 or 91. So this is not a new thing. This is something that's been around. It's just had a name change,
Yeah, right.
It's the in thing at the moment. And the fact that it's been done virtually, we did it virtually as well in a different way. So we introduced we separated what I realized, Brent, was that not every technician that gets into plumbing, and I'll stay on plumbing because our coaching is more plumbers than any other trade. Not every plumber that got in and say they did their apprenticeship. I want to be a plumber because I want to sell things. I want to sell drainage systems and that.
Oh, that's so true.
And you know this. The frustration I've had with, why won't Johnny, he's such a good plumber, why won't he go out and sell $250,000 a month like Billy Bob does,
Yeah.
Notice I threw an American in there. I've got to keep my audience engaged, right? So not everyone got into plumbing to sell, so that's fine. And I always said this. I would look at my company. For every 10 technicians, probably one of them has got the communication skills and the balls to be able to present and close bigger sales. And bigger sales is not necessarily the cure-all. I know that's
true.
One thing I've learned from Billy at Sierra is that high profit, smaller sales can be way better for a company than the big sales that could potentially go south, especially if you're venturing into trenchless repairs and where things can go wrong. So the thing is, it's not all about the big numbers, but what I learned, not everyone got into plumbing to sell, right? I've covered that. I don't want to go harp on that too long. So Joe introduced this. He said, well, Alan, this is how it's going to be. You've got your drain technician or your service technician. He just wants to go and run the call. He wants to go and clear the drain and do whatever he does, whether you use a discounted drain model, which we've adopted, and we've trained hundreds of companies on how to get the most out of that. And then you've got your plumber who might not have the same skills as Johnny, that is the drain technician, but he is a good communicator. He doesn't mind getting in front of the customer. He doesn't mind working with Billy Bob, we called him, right? He doesn't mind helping to make the sale. So we labeled our service technician, then we had our senior service technician. This is call-by-call management, because that senior service technician would have, let's say, 4 or 5 technicians reporting to him, and he couldn't be, and the first job off the rank is always the hardest one to manage from a call-by-call perspective, because your first jobs might be booked at 7:30, and you've got 4 guys that are landing at the job at the same time. So there's no way that the call-by-call manager or the senior advisor can be at 4 or 5 different places at once, not without a teleporter, and maybe that's future technology that's coming. Never been a Star Wars fan, but I've heard that technology does exist. So he had to do virtual sales and help the service technician to close sales. And this worked very well. It worked better when he could get on site, but I know companies now that have taken it to a whole new level where they don't need to be on site with the technician to make the sale. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because if it doesn't, I'll go back and repeat myself like I
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love it. And you're right. Not everyone's capable of selling. Not everyone wants to. So you put people in positions that they're good at, and just augment that with someone who can sell and get the best. I love that. It's perfect.
I love the system, and look, I give all credit to Joe Cunningham, and I would never talk about something or help contractors do something without Joe's. I work with Joe in Texas. We work together with our coaching, and I would never try to sell this to anyone that's listening without Joe's approval. And I always tell everyone I interact with, if you're a HVAC company, Joe Cunningham is the best trainer in the industry, and he's not only going to teach you the perfect service call, he's going to teach you how to implement call by call management. Now, all I've done, and me working with Joe for the last 10 years, and more so because, I'm based in Houston, where Joe's schools are based.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach anyone that wants to implement the call-by-call process into their drain and plumbing business, because that's what I do. I've been taking Joe's training, which stands above the other trainers that I've mentioned, not by, not in an enormous way, but in a way where I am confident any company that wants to improve their profitability via implementing the perfect service call for drains, which, we're rebranding that, and the whole call by call process using the senior service advisor or the call by call manager. So anyone that wants to learn more about that, we're going to be doing and let's call it virtual ride-alongs or virtual call by call. We're going to be working with companies in Australia, with Taylor, with Chris, with Sydney, to help companies improve profitability. So sorry, Brent, I
love this stuff.
I've hijacked your space. I want to come back to you and let you. I've probably said enough. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's a conversation I feel that had to be had, and it does tie into what you're about.
Well, exactly, and what you've just spelled out there is where people will lack most, whether it's sales or marketing, is they're not consistent. And when you've got something like that where there's consistency on every damn call, you're going to consistently close more calls. If it's not just like a quick shot in the arm and think, oh yeah, I'll try that today, and tomorrow do I have to do that, or the day after I have to do that. If it's there all the damn time, I know that's how I learned sales, because I gave myself a little whack every morning and every night. Every morning, every night, and it took a bit of while to sink into my thick head. So it's that consistency thing you're just describing there. It's going to kick goals. I love that concept. I know we used to do the physical ride-alongs when, way back when, but what you just described there, that sounds like a godsend to me. Really,
it's brilliant, Brent. And look, as a visionary, I've realized my weakness is being a visionary, and it's also my strength, And I did a podcast sometime when I was last in Australia with Daniel Davies, and we talked about EOS, the visionaries and the integrators. This is not a conversation on so much on visionaries and integrators, because they're two different personality types. This is nothing more than you've got probably the reason you've got a really high-skilled plumber who doesn't want to sell would be more to do with his personality type than anything else, because a sales personality type, and I've just done a lot of training just in the last few days on the different personality types. But here is something, and I want everyone that's listening to this podcast to get your head out of your ass and understand if it is indeed in there. Most contractors don't charge correctly. They're undercharging by a massive amount. And when I was put on the spot a few times, right, what do you do, Alan, besides owning one of Australia's largest service companies that had the largest personal media attack in Australian history, or one of. I also help contractors. This is the bit that I like. I also help contractors to pull their fucking heads out of their asses and charge correctly. Okay. So that was with the coaching business that we were working towards. Sales is not a dirty word. We're all in sales, but it's not natural for a technician who got into the industry not to sell shit. He got into the industry to fix shit. That was another USP. What do you do? Well, our company fixes shit. And humorous or not, that's just the way it is. The technician did not get into the industry to sell shit. He got into the industry to fix shit, right?
Yes.
So if you work out that not everyone is going to sell, we're all in sales. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
The fact is, everyone loves to buy, but no one likes to be sold. So why not stop friggin' selling? Put a system and process in place for your technicians to follow. When they get to the point where they got to present an option or a price to the customer, I beg you not to make it too big. Work the relationship before you present a $50,000 drain presentation, a drain renewal when you've known the customer for 5 minutes. Big no-no. Do the opposite to that. Present smaller options. You're not confident in presenting? Great. The senior service advisor or the call-by-call manager is there to hold your hand. They're there to communicate with the customer, sell on the value. When you've made a small sale, maybe there's a bigger sale waiting for you. So
that's exactly right.
We've gone from marketing automation to why service technicians don't like to fucking sell, right? Not like me to move the conversation.
But they both these things, they depend on consistency, because that is the one killer. I would say over and over again, every company I talk with, they'll dabble in this a couple of weeks, or they'll go and dabble in Google ads, or they'll dabble sending an email out or an SMS, but it's all dabble. You know, there's no sort of plan in place to go, okay, we're going to do this today and we're going to do it tomorrow and the day after and the day after and the day after that. You know, that would be the biggest thing out of those two areas. And if it was done consistently, even if it was done poorly, even if it was executed poorly, but if it was executed, and you taught me this, that if it was number one, executed and executed consistently, that's better than not doing it at all or half doing it. You know,
exactly. I love the word consistency. You've been using that word consistently in our conversation. And something else that I used to say, I like consistent. If you're not consistent, you're non-existent. Just think about that.
That's beautiful.
It's just one of the laws, life laws. Consistency is the only way forward. The other one that I think I used to also use with you is you don't need to get it right. You just need to get it going. So
that's so true.
It's true. That's what I was taught. So this is the product that we're about to launch. It's not out yet because I have to I'm catching up with Joe Cunningham today, who's in Australia, changing lives, working with companies one-on-one to implement the perfect service call and the call-by-call management. We're about to roll this out with several companies who want to change the trajectory of their company and look, it really won't matter what the economy is. They're going to have something that is going to make more sales. And that's what everyone wants: more leads. Everyone wants more sales, right? So we're going to roll this out. Anyone that's interested, you can hit me up, but it's going to be, you need to invest at least 3 months into this. I would probably recommend 6 to 12 if you're not a really good implementer. But if you can implement, all of the training that I provide can be done in 3 months. Very rarely someone does it in that short a time. So anyone that wants to know more about this, we're going to be rolling it out very soon. We'll have trainers here in Australia, and the call-by-call, virtual ride-alongs, all of that stuff will not only be, the whole system would be handed over, but the actual call-by-call trainer will actually be virtually attaching himself not only to your technicians, but your potential manager, because I would never just go in and provide a service where we just train the technicians, because it's the managers, the call-by-call managers that need to be doing that. But there's a handover period. So anyway, I've hijacked you again, Brent.
No, this is beautiful though.
I'm going to come back to you on just to conclude. We started off talking about marketing. We ventured into sales. Yes. But, you know, when you think about it, Brent, marketing without sales process is just wasted money, right?
Oh, it is. I've had so many examples I can reel off to you where you get leads, and I'm even just talking about from existing clients. And unless there's they're going to the right person that knows how to convert it into a job booking, it's a waste of damn time. Like you can throw as much money as you want at it and bring leads into the place, whether it's from your own database or fresh ones. But unless you've got someone that's on the end of the phone that knows what to do with them, it's a waste. And I've listened to these calls. And there are business owners that are taking these calls that shouldn't be taking these damn calls. They need a salesperson taking these calls and converting these calls.
You've touched on another area, and I did a great podcast with Brigham Dickinson, where I think he was with me when he came down to Australia a few years back. But yeah, that's and I also it was a comment by Ken Goodrich the other day about the most important person in the company. I think dispatch is right up there if you've got a good dispatcher call by call, but the CSR who takes the call can make a difference.
Totally.
And that really affects your marketing spend more than anything. So
it does. A lot of people fall into the trap of using an administrative brain type person to take those calls, and it should not be. No. It should be a gregarious salesperson taking those calls.
It's interesting, Brent. I forget who I was talking to about this, but I can help any company to create a job description for and I know the personality type for a CSR, but I can help create a job description that's not overcomplicated. Do you mind if I explain it?
Go for it.
Book the fucking call.
Yes.
That's the job description, period. But yes. I would probably remove the word that started with F and ended with G. Book the call. That's it. Plain and simple. So look, Brent, this has been fantastic, my man. I knew it would be. We are so much aligned to where the industry is going and what we need to do as coaches to help the industry. So book recommendation from Brent Crowley.
I do have one.
Here we go.
I think last time I recommended one called Sell Like Crazy by a guy called Sabri Subri, which is pretty cool. Yep. So if you haven't got that one, get it. But
a good book.
This one here, oh no, it's not.
You move it in front of your face and it might show. Yep, there you go. My Life in Advertising and Scientific Advertising. Yep, I have.
Claude Hopkins.
Yep.
Okay, so
that was recommended by Dan Kennedy.
Yes, all the big marketers recommend reading that book, and it's 100 years old. But don't dismiss it because of its age. The fundamentals in there are still the same. And there's one story in there that's always resonated with me. It's got nothing to do with trades or anything like that, or automation or anything like that, but it's got to do with marketing and selling. And it's about this beer called Schlitz beer. And this guy, Claude Hopkins, he was contacted to try and elevate them versus all their competitors. They were sitting at number 5 or 6, I think, in beer sales compared to the others.
Mm-hmm. And
anyway, he gets invited out to their distillery. He gets shown around. He gets shown where there's this artesian well that they bore 4,000 feet down. See, I'm talking American terms now. 4,000 feet down to get this crystal clear water. He is shown through the distillery where they show the beer going through this wooden pulp and all that sort of thing as part of the filtering process. He gets shown the process where they clean these big vats out. I think it was 3 or 4 times, not just one, to make them clean, perfectly clean, and gets told the process how the thing gets distilled for months. And he simply says at the end, that's an amazing story. Why don't you tell that story? And their response was, every other distiller does exactly the same thing. And his reply was, but no one's told that story. And so he then worked with them and proceeded to be the first beer company to tell that story. And because their product was perceived in a different light after that, their sales went to number 1. And how that relates to a trades business, if I jumped on 100 sites, I can see $50 off, $150 water system replacement, blah, blah, blah. Same. You know, there's no one screaming something different. So if you want a copy of that book, hit me up on our site and I'll get you one.
Wow.
So
Thank
it's
you.
just itjusthappens.com.au. There's a little red button down the bottom there if you want to physically talk with me, or jump on the contact page and we'll flick you a copy.
Appreciate everything you do for the industry, Brent. You're a great person to deal with. You're a good person, good heart, and you really do add a lot of value to.
Likewise, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So how do our amazing podcast listeners get a hold of you?
Okay, the website's itjusthappens.com.au.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that name is automation. It just happens.
Yep.
And there's a little red button in the bottom right-hand corner. There's a little button to my calendar. Click on that and away you go. Just answer a few questions. They're beautiful qualifying questions, by the way, if that appeals to the sales nature of you.
Yeah.
Or hit us up on the contact page and love to have a chat.
Thank you, Brent. Appreciate your time. This has been a fantastic episode. And thanks everyone that's joined in today's Pipeline to Profitability podcast. Alan Ferguson signing out. Thank you, Brent Crowley.
Thanks, Alan.
Cheers.